let me tell a story, okay? And let me just tell a story. So there was a guy in, I don't remember exactly what year it was, maybe 2002. They started kicking people out of the shoe that had been validated, not members, but associates. They were calling it the 7-year inactive, right? They had been clean for a minimum of 7 years. They hadn't debriefed or anything like that. They just were in the shoe when they shouldn't have been. You know what I mean? And it was kind of like the beginning of the end, but it took a long time for the whole letting everybody out of the shoe thing, right? So I think it was around 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. And I was in New Folsom. This time I was on C facility on New Folsom. And they had kicked guys to C facility and they had kicked guys to B facility, right? And you have to remember, a lot of these guys that they were kicking out of the shoe to these 180 yards, they hadn't seen a main line since the 80s, right? They had been in Pelican Bay for 15 years, 20 years, whatever, you know. They went from Corcoran shoe to there, and, you know, they had been in the shoe forever, right? They came out with the old school mentality, old school values, and they ran into a different type of game. You know, the game had changed. While they sat in the shoe doing their thing, the prison world had evolved, right? And so one guy in particular, you know, he came down. He was a really, really cool dude, eh? And he was about his business. He was about the business. There were things that were not going right on B facility. And, you know, there's a thing where if you know better, you have to say something. And if what you say isn't adhered to, then you have to do something. Because if not, then it falls back on you. Because you get punished based on your knowledge. People know what you know and expect a certain thing out of you. So this is what he did. It's what he was schooled to do. This is an older cat, right? So he went down there, he did some things, and, you know, he wound up whacking some people, and along the way, he was making enemies, you know, because he was disrupting the program of these vatos that, you know what, it might have been even before. I don't want to say, I don't remember exactly what year, but it was 2000 something, in the early 2000s. And, you know, you had little dudes that were being tyrants, that thought they were bigger. You know, I mentioned it before in the video. You know, you had a guy who was one way today, and then maybe he got blessed with some responsibilities, and then tomorrow he's a completely different person. He didn't understand that he was still the same person. He just had more responsibilities. And those guys were the ones that were treacherous. Those are the guys that were scandalous, right? So you had some people like that this individual that I'm talking about, we'll call him R. R came down and was, you know, doing what he was supposed to, trying to make sure things were running right. But these fucking snakes didn't like it. He had more juice and more authority than him. So they band together. And they did what snakes do, what cowards do. They started pencil whipping them, writing to people, doing shit. I don't want to get into all the details of what happened, but just say this. R wound up going to the hole for a pegada, for a hit. And while he was in the hole, one of the guys that he had checked rode home. And I really want to say who he wrote to, but I don't want to be disrespectful. But he wrote to somebody who contacted Legends, and they told a lie. See, you have to remember, back then, the Legends weren't on the yard. They had to take the word of those that were in contact with them. So when I see in the comment section, when people are saying, oh, that, you know, that happened because the Legends were being scandalous, or this happened because they wanted this, and that happened because they wanted that, you have to understand, a lot of times they were dealing with people they had met or hadn't even met. Somebody that they knew that person. And in passing, it was like, if you ever need anything, you can reach out to this person. And like I said, people got power hungry, and power drunk. And I always refer to them as disgruntled employees. If they saw somebody who was a threat to their little bullshit fake authority, because it's not real authority, the legends hold all the authority. Like I said, people got it fucked up and took on responsibilities and thought it meant they had power. No. So, these vatos, they instead of seeing a vato like, oh, that vato got his shit together, let me hook up with this vato, let's make some bread together, let me learn from this vato, we can learn from each other. They had the whole wrong mentality. They had them feminine traits of envy and jealousy. They were insecure. They knew they were inferior physically and mentally. So they didn't want to see this person and approach him like a man. Instead, they pencil whip people. They send it to the legends. The legends go off of who they trust. They trust this person. Okay, Holmes, I got you. This vato's not doing things right, then get him out of the way. He knows better. Right? And that's what happened with R. R got moved on. It was, people liked R and they moved on him in a manner that they could have done him a lot worse. They had the means to and they didn't. And that was because the guy that moved on him really didn't want to, but he knew he had to. And I remember R every day. We'd go out to I was in Ad Seg with him. And we'd go out to the cage. He would show up to yard every day. It's a cage, but it doesn't matter. He's showing his presence. He's making his presence be known. Somebody asked him one time, hey, Holmes, what are you going to do if they give you Sally? And he said, I'm going to kill him. I'll never be a victim. But he said, I'm not locking it up. I'm going to fight this shit. And I'm going to die fighting this. Unfortunately, he wound up dying. Not at the hands of anyone else, but from, I believe it was Hep C. He got sick. And the thing that had happened to him, there were so many people that knew it was wrong. But because the legends aren't there in person, you can only do so much. Believe me, he was a friend of mine. I tried very hard. Everyone that was a friend of his turned their back on him immediately. And I remember when I went to the hole and I went to the back with them and I asked him, so when you're on the yard, you deal with what's on the yard. You don't Ad Seg deals with Ad Seg, the yard deals with the yard. Once I went to Ad Seg, I said, let me know what's happening and how I can help you. And you know how humble this dude was? He said, don't bother trying to help me, homeboy. You're just gonna get involved in my shit. I said, yeah, but you didn't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, all these other bottles, they ran off on you. Well, when you fix it, remember that. I said, but I'm going to help you. And I helped them as much as I could until word came back. There's no helping it anymore. And again, it's because the legends weren't there themselves. They weren't there to see who was right and who was wrong. But they had a group of dudes telling the same story and one dude telling a different story. Again, this is a cautionary tale. If you want to play the game, if you want to be criming it, if you're going to, be out there living by your laws and not the laws of society, understand the laws of criminality are fluid. It's a good thing now that the legends are out there and they can see things for themselves and they don't have a bunch of little disgruntled employees power tripping on shit, moving off of ego and jealousy. Now they get to see it for themselves.
At one point in time, a couple of years ago, Dubs reached out to me and said, hey man, it was around Christmas. He said, hey man, let's do a like a video and send Christmas greetings to everybody or whatever, right? So shortly after that, somebody reached out to me. Somebody who was not black reached out to me and said, hey man, I seen you make the video with Dubs. Just in case you don't know, man, here's the scoop on Dubs. They gave me what I believe is a very truthful, plausible rundown on why Dubs rolled it up, right? And then later on, that was confirmed by another individual. I have very credible information. So just to keep it 100, no, I do not believe Dub rolled up with one shower shoe. He was whacked out on whatever, this and that, like the rumors were saying. Just the information that I got and was verified by somebody else later on, a separate person, just causes me to believe, that is a truthful account of what really happened, right? And like I said, by those dudes reaching out to me and sharing me that information, I'm not going to put that out there. But I'm going to tell you why Dubs told me that he rolled up. So like I said, in the course of that conversation, when we had that initial conversation, and I said, Dubs, I can also bring up your status. And Dubs was like, hey, man, what is my status? I said, well, I wasn't on the yard with you, but I believe that you're no good among your people. Dubs then goes on to say, well, yeah, I am no good. And he explained going to the SNY. Now, here's why Dubs told me, and Gunner was on the phone. And of course, Gunner, he's always going to lie. He's going to back Dubs' play. So who knows if they'll address this or not. But I want Dubs to, since he loves to put things on his mother to emphasize his point, I want him to put that on his mother, rest in peace, that we didn't have this conversation, right? So Dubs goes on to tell me the reason that he rolled up is because the Southerners on the yard that he was on was harboring snitches. There were snitches on that yard, according to Dubs. These are Dubs' words. There were snitches on that yard, and they were not willing to do anything with him, and Dubs did not want to program around those type of individuals, and so Dubs went PC. Now, those are Dubs' words. Now, whether he was lying or not, or whether he was trying to throw me off to the real reason, only Dubs knows about that, right? But to me, it's crazy how he'll sit back, man, and this is the, this is the piece of shit that Dubs is, right? He'll sit back and he'll try to, say all these good things about him, but behind closed doors, he's talking shit about him, But like I said, only Dubs knows the real reason that he rolled up. But now I want to see if Dubs is going to put that on his mother, that I'm lying about this situation. Now, and of course, like I said, in relation to Gunner, right, we already know that Gunner is going to back Dubs' play. I seen in the video when all this stuff was coming out, initially, Gunner claimed that he did not know Dubs' status. He said Dubs didn't reveal that information. Later on, once it came out that Dubs was in fact on a PC yard, then Gunner pops up and says, of course I knew. I talk to Dubs all the time. Of course you think Dubs is my boy. You think he's not going to share that information with me? But in one of those videos that I made right after all this occurred, I said, of course I knew that Gunner knew, because me and Dubs had only had 2 or 3 conversations in total on the phone before he shared this information with me, right? So my thinking was, me and Dubs was never pally or buddy. We talked about a few YouTube tips on things to do on how to enhance your views and certain how to add commercials to your videos and this and that, but we never had no deep in-depth conversation, right? So my point of saying all that is, if only after 2 or 3 conversations Dubs would reveal to me that he went SNY, then of course I knew that he had told Gunner. But like I said, man, these dudes lie so damn much, man. And just a trip how I trip on how sometimes you have certain individuals who will want to defend Dubs because they want to make it out to be a racial thing. And this has nothing to do with race, man. Dubs is a disrespectful hypocrite of the biggest form, man. This dude will say something one day and then totally change his whole stance on that 2 or 3 days later. So dudes kill me, man, trying to make shit about race, defending Dubs just because he may happen to be of the same race that they are, also in this live that I have, this video that someone sent to me, right? He's saying, hey man, they never put me up for CMC. They wouldn't put me up. They put Chill up though. To me, it is now, it's ridiculous, right? Because in a video he made a couple of days ago, just 2 or 3 days ago, he was talking about curfew yards and that CMC was off limits to his people. So my whole point once again is, he knew that before he even tried to smut me, making it seem like I was somewhere bad because he couldn't go there because of his people. So to me, it's just crazy, right? But he'll bring that up and he'll say, oh man, this CMC stuff. But Dubs, you was on an SNY yard for 12 years. You had more time on the SNY yard than you had on the main line.
What is my status?
What is my status? And as a black man that don't run no politics, how do you talk about a group that plays hardball? Straight up, this is what Urkel wanted. Let's get it. Now, he says, I want Dubs to put this on his mom. I want him. Listen. Let me tell you guys something. Chill said that I told him that I was on a yard with other Southerners that were harboring snitches. Chill. Do me a favor. Get at King, C.O. King, the one that you interviewed before, and ask him who was the leadership. If I was in a leadership position on the yard that I was on. So I was mad at myself for harboring snitches? I got snatched up off the yard and validated, and I went to the shoe, fool. I'm telling you, this dude is a dummy. Don't let the glasses and the Urkel look fool you. The dude is a straight up dummy. So I'm on the leadership on the yard, and I'm mad at myself because I don't handle my own business? That makes sense? So if anybody wants to believe that that's what I told him, when I got snatched up off the yard, he interviewed the cop that was on the yard with me. He could easily reach out to that officer and say, hey, was Dubs part of the leadership over there? I'm sure he'll tell him. So who are the Southerners, who are the Southsiders that I was mad about that they weren't handling business when I was part of the leadership? Urkel, come on, homie. Get it together. Get it right. Did I tell Chill some stuff about me? Of course I did, because I fucked with him and he fucked with me. He's not the only one that knows. And that's why when people say, hey man, you gotta say, I don't gotta say shit, but if I fuck with you, I'm gonna tell you. And I can tell you that everybody that really knows what time it is, they know what time it is. And if I was really all the stuff that these dudes say, why would I be showing my face? Chill is a moron. Chill has no sense, doesn't know anything about politicking because he never did. And by the way, he wants to talk about somebody that wasn't black reached out to me and told me, man, someone who is black reached out to me that knows you from in there. But see, I choose not to engage in your little petty bullshit. I don't like this whole negative bullshit that's going on. You jumped on the bandwagon. You did get spoken to sternly on that phone call. You know in your heart, and that's why you got mad. You didn't even want to take the call. Remember you told Gunner, oh, I don't know, man. I got a birthday party to go to. I don't know if I'm going to be available. It is what it is. Urkel is basically, at this point, he's like that mad baby mama. He said he told me this and that. Man, okay, all right, Urkel. Go ahead and make 10 more videos about me. But just remember, your story that you told about me, your video that just came out, I just skipped all the way through. I didn't want to hear your goofy ass. I skipped all the way through and I said, what? How does that make sense? Everybody can go back to my stories and you can see all my videos. Come on back. Come on and look at my videos. You read my board report. I got validated on the yard. So how in the fuck was I mad at some dudes on the yard when I'm in Pelican Bay shoe? Sheesh. Now he'll probably come out with a different version next. Oh, you know what? I kind of forgot. And he'll make it worse. But you already got caught, Holmes. You told a lie. And you want me to put it on my mom's and confirm your motherfucking lie? Man, you got me fucked up. So, there you have it. Urkel got my attention. I responded. I told him I didn't want to talk about him no more. He keeps yapping and yapping and yapping. Go look at every time he talks about me. Look at his views. Wonderful. Tell him to tell a story about some times he put in work, though. Tell him to talk about that. Tell him to talk about his experiences in prison. Let's see what his views are like. Maybe people will tune in. They haven't been. Not when it's about him. They will tune in when he talks about a Mexican, me, a Southerner. They'll definitely tune in. Excuse me. He gave me indigestion right there. But it's a true story, man, that he just told a fucking blatant lie that's like confirmable. He could have called the CO that he interviewed. The CO would have told him what I was doing on the yard if he would have asked. He probably would have told him. He's interviewed him before, I think twice. He also in the interview said the hardest dudes in prison were the Southerners. And yet Chill keeps talking about that group as if he could have functioned under those type of rules. CMC, huh? I think I'm going to do a video on the entire history of that prison. Since he's so tough and he was such a convict and he put in so much work that the authorities felt safe sending him there. I was never there. They never thought about sending me to that type of joint. But you were there. You stayed there. You programmed. You definitely had a weirdo as a cellie at some point while you were there. And you didn't care because you didn't check paperwork. I don't care what somebody says with their mouth. They know the truth in their heart. So he can say anything he wants. But he knows in his heart whether he checked his cellie's paperwork. Especially in a place like CMC East. When I told you I didn't want to talk about him no more and I wouldn't talk about him, I've kept to it. Now he does this video, lies about me. So I'm going to do this video. He's probably going to do 10, 20 more about me. It's the only way he's going to get views and make any money. That's fine. I'm pretty sure I am going to do a video on the history of CMC East. It's a simple video. Ugly history. I want you guys to know about. And then just, draw your own conclusions. I try to leave you alone. I'm not into, let me show this screenshot. Let me show that screenshot. Let me tell you about a private conversation. Go ahead, homegirl. Baby mama. Oh, mad baby mama syndrome ass having. You got my attention though, Urkel. You did that, Ons. You did that.
You messed up, John Villa, rat. You thought people weren't going to go back and search. Loose lips sink ships. That's why you were a wreck. All I had to do was go back a couple of years, but all that racist dog whistling isn't going to stop us from bringing on that neck. It's over. You just don't know it yet. It's over, buddy. Might as well go back to that welding job. Peace.